Hi, my name is Steve Rahi. I am a premier field engineer specializing in management technologies. Today's discussion is part 8 of an ongoing series focusing on client apps delivered through Intune, which of course is part of Microsoft Endpoint Manager. The specific topic for today is deploying apps to Android devices. Here's our agenda. So basically, what are apps, why we care about apps, and yeah, I know that's probably something we already know, but I will just quickly touch on it anyway. We'll talk about apps themselves in terms of the scenarios that we're going to describe here, briefly talk about how it works for each scenario, talk about requirements and details, and then configure those particular scenarios and watch them happen. We will wrap up with some troubleshooting tips and tricks. So what are apps? Apps are, surprisingly, all about app deployment, being able to take an app and deploy it to devices, in this case, Android devices, in a consistent, managed, repeatable way. You see also the adjectives robust, flexible, modern, familiar. All of those describe the process that you will see in Intune. Now, the Intune interface may not be familiar to you yet, but it will be. And so being able to use this familiar, consistent interface, as you'll see, regardless of the scenario, really, a lot of the things that you'll see in the console are going to be in common between the different scenarios. So very familiar process, regardless of the app type you're deploying. Yeah, some little bit of differences between them, but largely very, very similar. Flexible ways to deploy. We support a couple of different enrollment types and methods, and you'll see all the options that we have to be able to accommodate the needs that you might have. Very robust, reliable way to get the deployment done, and using a modern approach, which is through mobile device management protocol built into Android and other OSs that are managed through Intune. So why apps, right? Well, again, it's all about app deployment, having a consistent, managed way to get the apps deployed to your devices so that it becomes routine. If your apps or if you need to deploy an app to the device, it's not a big deal. You just go ahead and configure it, let it be deployed, and it just works, right? So here are the scenarios that I want to talk about, and first stop will be in about enrollment types here. I want to just spend a few minutes on this. When we talk about Android has two different big umbrella type of enrollments, right? So with Windows, with iOS, if you're going to enroll the device, there's different ways that you can actually do that enrollment. There's manual enrollment, right? Going through the BYOD enrollment scenario. There's corporate enrollment in iOS. That would be device enrollment protocol, now called Apple Business Manager. For Windows, that might be autopilot, right? Or something like that. Android certainly has those options too. And this is not an enrollment session, right? This is just kind of a review, really. But bigger than that, there's two large umbrellas that we have to, of enrollment types that we have to talk about before we get into the detail of each, right? And we're not getting into the detail of each in this session. There was an enrollment session I did where I do get into under the covers of each. Either way, so the two big umbrellas are Android Device Admin and Android Enterprise, right? So Android Device Admin is an older version of device enrollment that was out there in the early days. It has since been deprecated by Google on any new versions of Android, but it remains supported by Intune. As long as there are management needs out there, you can use it, right? Well, then there's Android Enterprise. So Android Enterprise is the path forward. It is the recommended pathway for business to be able to do what business needs to be able to do, right? And so there are several enrollment options whenever it comes to Android Enterprise. There's enrollment types such as work profile, right? And this, as a reminder, is when you manage an Android Enterprise device in Intune, you don't manage the entire device. Basically, management is segmented so that you have a work side and then you have a user side. There's also a piece called dedicated, right? And a dedicated device is essentially a corporate enrolled device for devices that are shared without user affinity, right? So basically, you're managing the device, things like digital signage or kiosk, and the user doesn't really matter. Or you have fully managed, and this would be a corporate-owned device associated with a single user and managed that way. Again, this is not an Android enrollment scenario or session, but I do want to mention that, to get going. Kind of also along with that, and you'll see this in a minute. Hopefully, I'll remember to remind you of it and call it out. But when you do an Android enterprise enrollment, there are certain applications that you will get as a part of that enrollment. One of them is the Microsoft Intune app. Another is the Microsoft Authenticator app. Another is the Intune company portal. And then optionally, you can install it yourself, is this thing called the managed home screen. Again, not at all going into those because this is not really an enrollment session at all, but just calling your attention to that. So, and I share that with you because we're going to divide this session in terms of app deployment into those two sections. There's going to be the Android device admin, as you see, and there's 4 scenarios under that. There's the Android Store app, web links, built-in apps, line of business as well. Under Android Enterprise, there's Managed Google Play, which has Android Store apps, private line of business apps, and web links. And then there's Android Enterprise System apps, right? Now I'm going to show you most of those. The 2 that I won't probably show more than just the configuration is the built-in and the Android Enterprise System app. But that said, and this actually probably should straddle both, but anyway, we'll move ahead. So how does this work in general? This is very much an in general kind of diagram. Right, so here we have basically Android deployment being created and targeted to the device, or could be user, right? It might be a web link, a store app. Line of business is yellow on purpose because web link and store app, yeah, there's content, if you want to call it that, associated with the app, but it's not content that you have to curate, you have to own. It's content that is provided through whatever source you're pulling from, right? And so that's not something that you have to worry about. The content's just there. Whereas the line of business would be your app that you create or you obtain somehow and have to deploy out. So in that case, the content would be downloaded from the Intune storage to the device. Now, even the non-line of business, or non content that you don't have to queue, there's still going to be content that will have to be downloaded, but specifically your content, line of business content, will be stored up in Intune storage and will have to be downloaded to the device, right? Hopefully pretty simple. Okay, starting to step our way into some of these scenarios. The first place, we're going to start with Android device admin, right? And the first thing we want to do is deploy or talk through and then work through deploying a store app. We'll just take these one at a time. So first, the requirements for this, pretty easy. The app has to be added to Intune. So just to clarify that for a minute, the app is in the Google Play Store, but it has to be brought into Intune and deployed through Intune, right? And then this has to be on Android 4.0, ice cream sandwich or better. And again, this is a device enrolled with device admin, right? Okay, so let's get into this 4 minutes. So to pull this up, let me bring in my Intune console. All right, and what I want to do in the Intune console is go into apps here. And then I'm going to focus just a little tangent here. There have been a lot of improvements in Intune through the years. I remember back whenever it was just really difficult to separate out what you were kind of trying to manage, Android, iOS, Windows. They were all kind of lumped together. The product team has done a phenomenal job of making things very, very clear. You can look at all apps together if you want to right here, and this is the combination of everything you have out, or you can look by OS. So these are just Android devices, and so, or Android apps. So I've already got some configured for demo, but I'm going to go through and show you how to add them. So I'm going to click on Add, and I'm going to go down to Android Store App, right? And what's going to happen when I select this is it's going to bring up some detail that I need to fill out. Well, how do I know how to fill this detail out? Well, that's actually pretty easy. For a store app, I'm just going to go look in the Google Play Store. So I'm going to look for, I don't know, let's see, well, search for Google Play Store first. And here we go. And then I'm just going to take some apps. Oh, thank you. I'll just take the first one that I have here, so Messenger, whatever. And so here's the URL for Messenger, right? If I want to deploy Messenger, I'm just going to copy that to my clipboard. I'm going to move over and I would call it Messenger and Facebook. All right, well, Facebook is what I need to put here. And then here's the application URL. It's going to paste that whole thing in there. And then if I'm ready, I can put in other stuff here if I want to, or I can just save. So I'm not going to go I'm not going to go forward with this because I do have an example application. So let me just go back and show you the example application that I have. So back to apps, and specifically Android apps here. All right, so I've got my Android Store app. This is Edge, Microsoft Edge. So I'm going to go show you the properties of this specifically. So if I edit the properties, I've called it at demo Microsoft Edge. There is the URL that I put in directly from the Google Play Store, like I showed you. And down we go, and I don't put in any extra detail, but there we are, right? Now, the only thing I have to do is deploy this to a device. And so what I'm going to do is just simply to demo this. I'm going to deploy this or assign this to all of the users of the device. Now notice you can absolutely assign as required, no problem. And the one thing I always like to call out here is notice the options. I can add a custom group, or I can add all users, or I can add all devices. I don't recommend adding all users or all devices in general, but I do think this is interesting and call this out because there are certain scenarios where you can assign 2 devices or 2 users. In this case, you can assign required to users or devices. You know that because you see all users or all devices as options, so you know both are valid. Available for enrolled devices, though, notice you can't make it available for devices. That kind of makes sense, right? Because the device has no way to manually select it and install it. So you can only make this available to users. Then you can do available with and without enrollment, also to users if you want to, right? So I'm going to go ahead and save. Actually, I need to put something in here, don't I? Available for enrolled devices. I am going to select all users, and then I'm going to review and save, and then finally save, and then verify that you actually did get the assignment configured correctly in this overview page. I've seen a couple of times where it's either my fault or something that was a little bit of a glitch, and I don't know which, but where it didn't actually show up as assigned here. So always a good idea to check that and validate that things are as you think they are. So that's working its way out through the system right now. So now let's, actually I removed Intune. Let me go pull Intune back in, because one thing that I'll do, it should happen by default, but I just like to go ahead and do this, especially in demo scenarios, is I'm going to tell the device that I just assigned this to synchronize. So I'm going to go to Android devices. Again, this is an Android device admin enrolled device scenario. And so you'll see I have 2 devices here. One is device admin and one is work profile. So here's work profile, here's device admin. I'm going to go ahead and synchronize this. Say yes. All right, so that's actually syncing. Next I'll go check the device. But before I do that, I realize I forgot to mention one thing. So there are two ways to enroll Android devices: device admin and work profile, or Android Enterprise, right? How do you know which you allow? It could be, and this actually in the early days threw me a bit, it could be that you try to enroll a device as an Android Enterprise device, but it actually never gets installed as an Android Enterprise device. It always comes in as device admin. Why? Well, one way is you can control this under enrollment, under device enrollment, right here, by setting enrollment restrictions, okay? And so right now, I have it just where I can enroll Android Enterprise, but I had to switch it around to be able to get my device admin device enrolled. So right here, Android Enterprise is allowed. Android, well, let me just edit this, right? So here's how you set it up. Android Enterprise allowed. Android device admin is blocked. So in no case can a device that only can enroll with device admin come in and get enrolled. Now, if I want to force device admin, I can. I just switch it around, right? But this is where you do it. Okay, enough said about that. Let me pull Intune out, and I have synchronized the device, and I actually am sharing my Android device admin screen through a mirroring process in Windows 10 called Connect. It's actually setting up a wireless display that will work. And so here is my Android Enterprise, Android work profile, Android device admin device. And what I'm going to do is go launch the company portal on the device. And then hopefully by now the app is here. And in fact, it is, right? So you see Edge is sitting here in company portal waiting for me to tap it to install. When I tap it, it's just going to say, hey, go and view in Google Play. So I'm going to go view in Google Play. That's going to let the user have a direct link into Google Play, and then they can go install the app, no problem, right? And I don't want to do any of this, so I'm not going to, but you see at least how it works, right? Actually, it's going to go ahead and do the download, no problem. And so you see it coming down. And this is the experience for Android device admin for something that you're deploying out of the Google Play Store. So I'm going to go ahead and take this back. And next time we come to the device, we'll probably see that Edge is there, but I'll pull this out of the screen for now. All right, so that's Android Store app. Again, in a scenario where you're managing a device through device admin. Let's move on. The next is, again, Android device admin. And what we want to do here is just take a web link and deploy that web link, right? Could be that you have a web app or series of web apps that are critical for your end users to be able to have on their desktop, and you want to publish those either as in the company portal, like what I just did, or some other way, right? So that's what we're talking about here. Really, really easy to do. So in terms of actually this, I realize shouldn't be there. That should not be managed Google Play. Sorry, this is Android device admin. So in fact, let me, through the magic of video, pause that and fix it. And look at that, through the magic of video, it is now fixed to what it should have been. Apps and errors, web links, and again, this is for Android device admin. And so we do need, like before, Ice Cream Sandwich 4.0 or later, a device enrolled through Android device admin. If you want to do this with a device enrolled through Android Enterprise, you certainly can. You need to use the Manage Google Play scenario that's coming up for our discussion. All right, so let's actually see this work and in action, right? And so same kind of deal. I'm going to pull back in the Intune console, go back to my apps here, and look specifically again at Android apps. Oh, and one other thing. So I showed you all apps, how that shows you every single app that's in Intune right now. It does as soon as it loads. If I were to click Add, then it would show me every option that I could possibly configure in Intune because it supports all of the platforms. If I go to Android and I select Add, it's only going to show me those options that are available for Android, right? Okay, so I scroll on down. Here's web links. So I'm going to click on web links, all right? And so I'm going to select that, and it's going to give me an information page I need to fill out. Very similar to what you just saw, right? I mentioned consistency of the process, and you're starting to see some of that. So I'll just call this Bing, whatever. It's going to be Microsoft. Bing is just something I can use for quick demo, Microsoft. And then the URL would be Bing. Okay, there we go. And so should be, oh, come on, that is correct. You try it again. Okay, there we go. So, and then we fill out more, we assign it, whatever. I've already got this built, so let's go look at that. So I have my, scroll down here. I have my web link, my standard web link here. So let's go look at properties. And so this is the same thing I just did. I'm using just Microsoft.com in this case. I didn't fill out anything else. Right? And so now all I need to do is go assign this to a device. And so here, I'm going to look at my assignments and notice that I have the same options I just talked about. I have one more. I have let's just go edit it. So I have the ability to require this to, again, users and devices. I can make it available for enrolled devices or not enrolled devices with or without enrollment. And then I also have the uninstall option. So I can force the uninstall on the device. So I'm just going to make this optional. I'm going to add all users and save this. Okay. So you see uninstall here. I'm going to review and save. And this is going to start making its way down to the company portal. Save that. I'm also, while I'm here, I'm just going to go back and show you the app I previously created. Android app, not all apps, Android app. I'm going to show you the Android Store app, right, and the properties on it. Scroll down. This was Edge. And notice, I just wanted to call this out. I had uninstall on the web link. I do not have uninstall here, meaning that your options are going to change as you go through this, depending on what the app type is. Right now, like before, just because I want to make absolutely sure, I'm going to go to my Android device, admin device, and I'm going to synchronize it. Again, this should happen automatically. So there's a process that I detail in the enrollment session called the push notification service that exists for all three kinds of devices, where when you make a change like this and assign it, it should automatically go down and notify the device that there's something pending for it. But just to make sure, I'm going through and kicking this. Now, I'm going to pull back in my Android device. Let me get rid of Intune for a moment. And here's my Android device, right? So now if I open the company portal, we should have the web link. And oh, by the way, you see that Edge is now installed, right? So if I go to the company portal and go back, and then I'm just going to close this and reopen it just to be sure, get rid of all of this, right? And then go back to the company portal, let it log back in and reconnect. Then I'll go back and look at my apps here, View All. I don't quite have it yet. All right, so I just have to wait for a minute. Let me just pause the video so you don't have to sit through this, and I'll wait until it shows up, and I will be right back. Okay, it just took a second, but it is here now. Right, so it showed up in the same area. Since it is assigned to all users, the user has to tap this to select it. So I'm just going to go ahead and select the web link, and I can go ahead and install for the device, and off it goes, and the web link will go ahead and install. And once it's installed, the web link will appear in the company portal widget, and so on. Right, so I'm not going to wait on that. Off we go, and we'll move on to other demos. You know what? Before I do that, I'm reminded though that I'm on an Android device, and I want to complete the picture, because unless you are familiar with Android, you won't know this, perhaps, and so I want to make sure that you don't get lost here. So notice it says that it's in the Intune Company Portal widget. Well, what the heck is the Intune Company Portal widget? If you scroll back and forth, you don't see anything there. If you go to apps, you really don't see anything there. And so on Android, there are a group of basically home screen shortcuts called widgets that you can install if you want to. And I don't have one installed right now, but I will install one, because right now you won't see that web app anywhere. You will only see that web app in the Intune Company Portal widget. And so your end users, if they don't have the Intune Company Portal widget installed, they're not going to see it either. So let me show you what I mean. So I'm just going to press and hold somewhere on the screen and go to my widgets list. And so I will scroll down. I will see the company portal. So I'm going to tap on that and hold it, and then I'm going to pull it over to my screen, and now it's here, right? And if I open it up, I do, in fact, have an option to say what browser do I want to use. I'll just say Edge, and always use that in my case, if I can get that to work. All right, and then Edge is going to come up and take me to, I don't want to sign in. Off we go. And anyway, it takes me through the process of getting to that web link. In my case, it's the only web link that's installed, right? So anyway, you get the idea. You have to have that additional piece on your machine in order to get that to work. So I'm going to say do not sync and not now. And sorry, let me get through all of this. All right, and complete the picture. Right. So anyway, so we're opening up Microsoft.com because that is my link, and you see that. So anyway, we can be done at this stage. So you pull that out of there, pull that out of there, and we're back. I'll get rid of the company portal. Anyway, wanted to complete that loop for you, because if you aren't familiar, oh, and one last thing, if you have a widget that you want to get rid of that's a bit annoying, all you have to do is click on it and hold. You see the X at the top, put it up to the X, and the widget goes away, right? Anyway, little tangent on widgets, but hopefully helpful in case that's not familiar to you. All right, so the next scenario, still staying with Android device admin, would be, oops, I skipped ahead. Built-in. So I want to show you built-in apps on Android device admin. Now, built-in apps is a little bit, the documentation is a little bit weird on this. It doesn't specifically say it's limited to device admin. That's where I'm going to just show you an example of what I'm talking about. Really not going to show it to you live. I'll just show it to you being configured, and we'll go from there. Okay, so first, requirements. Again, Ice Cream Sandwich 4.0 or later. Android device administrator enrolled. Again, if you're using Android Enterprise, there's a little bit of a question out there about this. You can use Manage Google Play to do a lot of these type scenarios, but I didn't see in the documentation, and I honestly haven't tested it to know if this works on Managed or Android Enterprise devices. I would expect that it should, but mileage may vary. Again, I'm not going to take this all the way through a full demo, but I do want to show you how to configure this and so forth. So let me pull back in the Intune console. Now, first of all, what is a built-in app, right? Well, a built-in app is essentially an app that can be fully managed with something like Microsoft Application Manager and so on. So built-in apps don't apply to Windows. They apply to iOS and Android because that's the only place Microsoft Application Management really plays. Let me show you what I mean, first of all. If I go to Apps and look at all of my Android apps, right? And then you'll see my built-in app demo down here, right? Right here. So Cortana is my built-in app demo. And notice MAM SDK enabled, yes. So what that tells you is this app is one that can be managed by MAM. And in fact, built-in apps are those that are eligible to be deployed and managed by MAM. But I'm jumping ahead a little bit. Let me go and show you how to configure this. So Android, and I'm going to click Add, and I'm going to select Built-in right here. So you know built-in's available for Android because it's in the list when I filter on Android, and so good enough. All right, so click on Built-in, hit Select, and then now I just need to go choose whatever app that I want. So previously, when you thought about these, you would go see a list of all the apps that are documented approved for use with MAM. Here just gives you a full list of all of the apps that you might want to use that can come in and be managed through MAM. You see iOS and Android, right? No problem. And so I chose Cortana. So I'll just choose Cortana again. I scroll down a little bit further. There it is. Cortana for Android. I could choose multiple apps here if I want to. I don't need to just for this. And I would select it and continue on. Now scope tags and assignments, right? So there's not a ton that you need to do here. But in order to actually configure MAM controls for an app, the app kind of has to be there. And so this is a way to get that app onto the device, right? And we've already had a session on MAM, but just to go back a minute. So under apps, we have app protection policies, right? And so this is what we're referring to. We can go create a policy, and it would be for Android. And so I'll just do that. So whenever we go create our MAM policy, one of the things we have to do is specify what apps we want. And here we would have any public apps that are out there. And guess what? Hey, Cortana is in the list, right? So again, not exhaustive trying to tangent off of that, but just to kind of show you a little bit about it, how this might work, right? And that's all I'm going to do for that particular one, is show you that you can use Intune to deploy these built-in apps. So what's next? All right, so next is, again, staying with the Android device admin, deploying a line of business app. Now, what is a line of business app? A line of business app would be one where you create it or have it created, or you own the source files for the app, which in the Android ecosystem would be an APK file. So there is an option with Android device admin to be able to deploy that APK file to your device as needed, right? Now, the requirements are that you, again, have Ice Cream Sandwich 4.0 or later, that the device be enrolled in a device administrator enrollment. If you are wanting to deploy an APK to Android devices, and your device is Android Enterprise enabled, then use Manage Google Play. I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. But in terms of doing this with Android device enrollment or device admin mode, let's go back into the Intune console. Now, what I need to do is go to Android apps here, all right? And if I click Add, and from the drop-down, I'm sure you've already seen this, line of business, right? Now, I'm going to select that, And you see all the ones that we support. Here's Android APK. I'm going to select that. And the first thing I'm going to be asked to do is to select my app package file. So this is an APK file. I've already got this created, so I'll just go directly to what I have created. And so here is my Android line of business example. Go to Properties, and here is my sample APK that I uploaded, and then the associated detail. Again, very familiar home screen. And what I'm going to do is now assign this. I'm going to assign this to, users. Now, I can do all of the 4 assignment types, just like before, but I'm going to make this available to all, switch back to the PowerPoint for a minute, but go back. I'm going to make this available to, available to all users. Here we go. And then I'm going to save this, review and save, and then finally save. And then like before, I'm going to go kick the device. So under devices, go down to Android. And then I'm going to go to Android devices. Finally, and my Android device admin enrolled device, I'm going to synchronize it. Yes. So now I just need to move Intune out of the way and pull in my device, and we'll see if it's in the company portal yet. Maybe not, but we'll still see what it looks like. So launching the company portal, looking at apps, and in fact, it just showed up. So here's my sample APK. I'm going to go install this thing, which is going to download the file and go install it just like normal, right? Now, again, I don't have to let the user initiate this. I can require this. And so this is an app that I know is not going to install on here, right? Because it's kind of just a sample app. It doesn't have the signing and all the different things I need. But I wanted to show you the process. So it is not going to fully install, but you see the process by which it will go through. I'm going to go ahead and pull this out of the screen and move on. Now, I mentioned Android Device Admin. I mentioned Android Enterprise. And in fact, now we are moving to our Android Enterprise scenarios. The first stop along the way is to talk about Managed Google Play. So Managed Google Play is a way that we can deploy Google Play Store apps, line of business apps, and web links to devices that are enrolled through Android Enterprise Enrollment. So let's talk about this for a minute. So first of all, what are the requirements and details in order to deploy an app through Managed Google Play onto Android Enterprise devices? Well, first of all, the app has to be added to Intune. Now, the Store app is already in Google Play, but it's not actually associated and approved in Intune. And so that app has to get approved, brought down, and synchronized into Intune. And then once you have the app synchronized into Intune, it can be deployed, right? The device has to be Android Enterprise enrolled. So I've already talked about what that means, shown you some examples or talked through some examples, very, very, very high level of how you can get a device to be Android Enterprise enrolled. And then also, your Intune tenant has to be linked into and approved in Managed Google Play. Right now, there's a couple of things with this. You have to make sure that portal.azure.com and play.google.com are in the same security zone in your browser. And again, you need to connect Intune to the managed Google Play Store so that you can get this done, right? So let me first show you that. Let me pull back in Intune. Now my tenant, or my tenant's already attached to Google Play. but still, let me go through that. So if I go to tenant admin, I believe it's tenant admin. Let's see. Nope, I think I'm wrong. Sorry, I had that on the brain. Let's go back up to devices. Yeah, devices is where we should go. And Android, and then Android enrollment. The first thing here is Android Enterprise. And the first thing here is to connect up to managed Google Play, right? Link your managed Google Play account to Intune. Mine is already set up. And so, but if you don't have it set up, you just need to go through a process here of agreeing to permissions so that Microsoft can send both user and device information to Google, and then go ahead and connect your Intune tenant to Google, which is not a hard process, right? I've already got mine done. So we should be good to go, right? So that's configuring your association with managed Google Play so that you can get the rest of this done, right? Okay. Now, once you have your tenant connected to managed Google Play, there are 3 different app types that you can install. The first is a store app. Well, actually, all 3 of these fall under the umbrella of store apps. You don't think of them necessarily as store apps, but they are. This would be an Android, managed Google Play Android store app is the first one we'll do. So in terms of actually going through and configuring this, pretty easy. Once you have this installed, let's go back to apps. And let's go to Android. And I'm just going to add an app. So now, like before, I have the drop-down, but here's Manage Google Play. So I'm going to click on Manage Google Play, and then I'm going to hit Select. And what's going to happen is in Intune, we're going to browse to the Google Play Store. And now whenever I choose to install an app, right, I can search for one. Actually, let me make my browser screen smaller so it's easier to see this a little bit. There we go. So scroll to the right. So whenever I go in here, I can scroll up and down and see whatever apps I want. Let's just say that I want to do this one. I'll do Slack, right? So I'm going to get this, and it's going to show me what this is, and I can approve this. And when I approve it, it's basically going to ask me, okay, hey, here's Slack, and here's what permissions it needs to have. Do you want to allow this? And I can just say, yeah, sure, approve. And then when I approve it, it's going to say, okay, great. Do you want to perpetually approve this or be notified about different things? And I don't know why this is not bigger on my screen right now. And I'm not able to select that. Let me resolve that real quick. Okay, sorry about that. Weird. I had to really decrease my screen zoom and also go ahead and refresh and reload. So I'm down to 80%. But either way, you see, keep approved or revoke app approval when the developers request new permissions. Typically, people will just go ahead and keep approved, but it's up to you. So I'm going to click Done. Now, what I've done now is I've actually approved this app Slack to be deployed through my managed Google Play Store, right? So not an issue there at all. Let me pull this out for just a second. Need to make an adjustment over here. All right, so I've got that approved. Now, what I need to do is wait for that to synchronize into my my Intune tenant, right? So that I can go ahead and further deploy things. Okay, so pulling Intune back in for a minute. Now that I've approved Slack, what I need to do is I need to get it synchronized into Intune so that I can deploy it. So I'm going to click Sync, and that's going to take me back to my app list, right? So I can refresh that, but generally it takes a few minutes to get in here, and I do want only my Android app. That's good. So I don't know if Slack will be here yet or not, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, I don't see it, because what I've actually done already is I've done this with Microsoft To Do. right? So it's a managed Google Play. I'm going to actually blow up my console again a little bit so that you on smaller screens will be able to see better. Okay, so scroll on down, and I'll just refresh it one more time to see if Slack is showing up, but I don't expect it to for a little bit yet. And actually it did. So here's Slack. So now it's synchronized in. And so now that I've synchronized it in from the managed Google Play Store, I can go deploy it. Now, the one that I've actually set up for demo is Microsoft To Do. So I'm going to go to properties on it, and you see all the detail that came in from the app metadata in the managed Google Play Store, including the URL. And what I'm going to do now is just go and I'm going to assign this. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign this one as required. So I'm going to click Add Group, and I have a demo group that contains my Android Enterprise devices. So here's my Android admin. My Android Enterprise are down here. Android work profile, good enough. I'm going to select that and then review and save and then save it. And then I'm going to initiate a sync on the device just to be sure. Before I do that though, I'm just going to show you. Before I save that, let me go and show you on my device that it's not installed right now. So now since I'm shifting over from Android Device Admin to Android Enterprise Enrolled, this is a Samsung device that I'm using for the Android Enterprise, and you don't see Microsoft To Do anywhere on here, right? Okay, so let's pull that back out of the screen for just a minute. And let's see, how do I get that out of the screen here? There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to save this. Oops, go away. Save. Okay, let me just cancel this out. Hang on a sec. All right, now let me save it. All right, good. Save. So it's saving. And now I'm going to go kick a synchronization to my device, my Android device, this time the work profile enrolled device. And again, all of this should happen automatically, but I am just making sure. So sync, yes. And so now with that, let's return to our device and see what's happening. So we're back on our device and we're waiting for a minute, and this should show up on this screen in just a little bit. So we'll just give it a sec. So Connect is out there. So we'll just give it a sec and see what happens. I'm going to pause the video, so to speak, and be right back. Okay, so I'm back, and I gave it just a couple of minutes, and as you can see, To Do is clearly installed right here on the app in the upper right-hand corner of the app. Now, a couple of comments about this. One, since I have approved it as an admin in the managed Google Play Store and I've deployed it, there is absolutely no need for the user to do anything, to approve, say anything. It's just going to show up on their device. The other thing, while I'm here, I talked about the different ways to enroll a device in Android Enterprise mode. The way I've enrolled this device is through Work Profile. And so that means there's two separate sections on the device. One is for the device itself, and the other is for the user, right? And so one of the ways and I probably didn't describe that exactly right, but one of the ways you can determine, let me say a different way. So there's even on a device that a user enrolls, when the work profile is created, what that means is applications that are in that work profile are company apps, and they're protected, and the data in there is kind of sandboxed off, right? And so you see that by an icon. So the To Do app has a little icon on it indicating it's a work app. If you go into the work folder, you'll see all of these are ones that have little icons on it. So company portals there, My Files, Contacts, Play Store, all of that, right? So that's this particular device and how it's configured. So let me pull this out of the screen for the moment and move on. So that's deploying a store app through Managed Google Play. The next one, though, is line of business. So you've already seen me deploy a line of business app with Device Admin, but here we do it through the Managed Google Play Store. And so this is the same concept where you have an APK that you own the source of and you want to deploy it through Intune. So let's talk through how that works. So to do that, let me grab the Intune console again, and we'll move back to apps. And I'll go down to Android apps here, and I'm going to add, again, a Managed Google Play app. And this time, when the store comes up, yeah, I'm going to care about what's in the store, but let me shrink that down a little bit so we can all see it and refresh for a moment. Refresh that. There we go. All right. So here are, let me do that again, add, Manage Google Play, select. Great, so it's coming up. And now here's the store. And usually you would think I'm just going to go straight to the apps over here. But on the left-hand side, you see here's the Search Play Store, but here's private apps, right? And so I have the ability, I've already done one because I've just got my demo one to do, but I have, scroll down here, I've added my app demo, right? But if I want to add a new one, I just click on the plus button and I type in the name of it, different things, add in the APK file. Now let me pause here for a minute. I didn't say this with the store app, but I'll say it there and here. There are two ways to add a store app through Manage Google Play. One is to use Intune. The other is to do it through the store console directly. I much prefer the fully integrated Intune experience, and that's the only one I showed you there, right? And so you can do the direct method if you want. It just takes a little bit more work. Same thing here. You can actually go and do all of this for the private line of business app through the Intune console, or you can go do it through other channels through Google. There's a number of advantages in doing this through the Intune console. So, for example, if you use the Intune console method, and that's the only one I'm going to show you here too, it allows adding the line of business app by submitting the APK directly to Intune, right? Does not require you to have a Google developer account. Also does not require you to pay the fee to register with Google as a developer, right? Much simpler way to actually get this done and reduces the number of steps you have to do to add the app. And then finally, app submitted in this manner will be visible and ready for management in as little as 10 minutes, right? So some pretty significant advantage for submitting through the Intune console, these custom line of business apps. Anyway, so once you have this line of business app ready to go, you upload your APK that goes through Intune, makes it available in Manage Google Play, and you're ready within 10 minutes to deploy. So I've already got one that I have deployed, right? So let me just switch back. So here is my private app, right? So no problem. I go configure that just like I showed you. I give you the APK and so on. I can do some different advanced things. But then once I get that done, like before, I click on sync. And what that does is it will bring the app down to Intune. And in fact, here it is. So here's my APK through Managed Google Play. Make sure that I'm not actually hitting the wrong one. I don't think I am. No, I'm not. All right, so here's through Managed Google Play. I've got my APK. Now the properties list and everything else looks very similar, right? So I'll just go down through here and you again see all the options for deploying the app. I'm going to edit this, and this time I'm just going to make this available so that you can see that experience available with enrollment. And I'm going to do add all users. Cool. Review and save, and then finally save. All right, so like before, just to get her done, go to Android devices and kick the Android device to synchronize. Android for work, there we go. There we go. And sync. So I'm synchronizing it now. Okay, so that's all in progress. I'll get the Intune console out of the way. We'll bring back in the console here. Now, to see this one, I'm going to have to go into the company portal. And so when I go into the company portal, you recall what the experience was like on the device admin enrolled device. Here, it's going to be a bit different. So I'm signing in. And as soon as it signs in, come on. Okay, so it's signed in. Now, you don't see an option for apps. The only thing you see is the option to open the Manage Google Play on the device. I'm going to open that up, and we'll see if it's here yet. Yeah, I don't have any results yet, so I have to wait a little bit. So we'll just give it a couple of minutes for everything to synchronize down, and then I will come back. Well, strangely, it's still not here after waiting a couple of minutes. So instead of delaying, I'm going to move ahead. And then hopefully, whenever we come back to the last one, we will be all good, and both of them will be there. Okay, so that's deploying the private line of business app. The last one that we deploy through the store or manage Google Play is web links, right? So in a similar way, let's pull back in Intune. All right, and go back to apps and Android apps. And same thing, we're going to add. And we had web link down here, but this one for Manage Google Play is through, or for Android enterprises through Manage Google Play. So we're going to click on that. And then on the left-hand side again, we have web apps. And so I've got a couple of web apps here for demo purposes. So app demo and then Bing. Right? If I want to create another one, I just click on the plus button, fill in the detail, name, title, web app, how you want it to display, whatever. But I've already got these loaded. And so once you have them configured, like before, you need to sync. And once you sync, then the apps will be displayed after some time is passed, not very long. Usually the web app will come down. And sync. Now, this is the standard one for device admin. This is from Manage Google Play. And so I am going to look at properties. We see, in fact, that this is, let's see where I'm going. So here is the link to it in the Google Play Store. So this is a web app in Google Play. Here's what it looks like, right? So I'm going to go assign this as available to my user. All right, so let's go do that. Edit, assign as available to enrolled devices to all users. Good enough. Review and save, save. All right, and go kick the device once again. Android devices. Here's my Android for work, and I'm going to synchronize. Yes. All right, good enough. So let's get Intune out of the picture for a moment. Pull back in the Android device. Here it is, right? And I'm just going to go through the process of getting rid of this particular app, both of them actually, and go ahead and sign back into the company portal, see what happens this time whenever we go through. And hopefully this won't take that long this time, but we shall see. Okay, try again. Interesting. There it comes. All right, cool. Now let's go to open and see. Hope. And there they both are. That's interesting. So I don't know why the one was delayed, but we'll start with, since we're talking about the web link, we'll start with the web link. So I'll tap on that and say install. So it's going to go install the web link, and off we go, right? And then It's installing, so I'm good. I can go open the web link. Now, I'm going to tap on that. Now, what it's going to require is it's going to require a particular browser, right? And there's some nuances with it. So, for example, on Device Admin, whenever I did the web link, you saw that it gave me a choice of browsers. Here, you have to deploy a managed browser or whatever. You can see that in the documentation. But still, you see that it did come down and so forth. So I'm good. Now, here's the demo APK. I'm going to go ahead and install that and see if it will actually install. Looks like it's installing. So wait on it. And now I'm going to open it. And I believe this one will open. Go ahead. If I can get my finger to type open. Allow book request. Yes. So I'm allowing it. Yes. And allowing it. And great. So it goes ahead and launches. No problem. So we've done all three now. Through Manage Google Play, we've done the store apps, we've done private line of business app, and we've done WebLink, right? So there's one more to do, and this is Android Enterprise specifically. There's the thing called Android Enterprise System Apps. What are Android Enterprise System Apps? And by the way, this is one that I'm not going to show you actually installing. I'm just going to show it to you in the console, right? When you have an Android Enterprise device that's enrolled, depending on the configuration, you may or may not have all of the system apps immediately available on the device, and you may want to add some system apps so that they are accessible on the device, and that's what we're talking about here. Right? So you need an Android Enterprise enrolled device, Ice Cream Sandwich 4.0 or later. And so the way you do this is first you have to go in, let me pull Intune back into the picture. First, you have to go in and discover what the app is that you want. So let's do that. So play.google.com. And what I want to do is access the particular URL of the app that I care about, right? So this might be something like Gallery. You know, Gallery is a system app, but it may not always be installed there. So let's just go look for Gallery. Okay. So here's Gallery. Scroll down a little bit. So what I'm looking for is maybe Gallery 3D. I don't know. Let's just choose one. So Gallery. So whenever I go look at the URL, right after the ID equals is going to be basically the URL in reversed format of the particular app. And so that's what I'm going to need. If I copy that to my clipboard, then I would go back into Intune, and here is my enterprise app already configured. And so if I go to properties and look at the properties, pretty simple. I give it the name, and then I give it who the publisher is, and then I give it that particular URL. So this, in this case, it's Gallery 3D, so I chose the wrong one. But then once I have that configured, really pretty easy, now I just deploy it to the device that I care about. And I only have the option of required or uninstall. And so what's interesting is, in kind of the way I enrolled my device, if I look at my device, and I look at my list, and by the way, you see that I do have the app, the APK, installed because I told it that it could. And here's my web link also that shows up on my my desktop. But if I go back and look at all of the installed apps on my, or sorry, if I just go and search for, where the heck is it? Search for Gallery on my device, you'll see that it's already there. So let me open up Settings, and I will go to Apps. And then if we scroll down, we will see that Gallery is actually already here. So that, I think, is why it's not installing again. But nevertheless, that's how it works, right? Okay. So let's get Intune out of here. All right. Okay, so we are done with all the walkthroughs. I want to wrap up with a bit of troubleshooting maybe some tips and tricks as we go through this. And again, this is nothing that is new. I've covered this in previous sessions. At some point, we're going to have a dedicated troubleshooting session on the deeper details of Intune, going into device options and so on. But for now, one of the things that, again, was lacking for time, but I really am glad to have it now, is the unified ability to do things like troubleshooting. So you've seen me deploy apps or assign apps to users. There was one time that I assigned an app as required. So if we go into troubleshooting and support, the first thing I'd be asked to do is to select a user. And so, So this is the user that I use for everything. So I'll choose me and select, right? And then I'm going to scroll down and I can see different detail that I might want to see, right? Now I can see all of the apps that are deployed to me as a user. What I don't see is the status of them. So what I need to do as well is I need to go select a device that I have deployed things to. So here's my Android for work profile device. Here's my Android device admin. I'll select both. So if I go to this one first and look at managed apps, then I will see every app that has been deployed to me or to the device and its specific status. Waiting for install status, available to install, installed, this is the one that was required, right? Whatever the case may be. One of the other things that you can do is you can actually click on an app and you can see the workflow, right? What was happening, pending install, all the different things. So the idea being, if there's an error, you can pinpoint where that particular error might have happened, right? Now, let me go back and select my Android for work, and we'll see a similar but a different view. So managed apps, right? So here they are. And so not applicable is Cortana, so that's that installation status, and these two are installed, right? So you get an idea. Is this the deep nitty-gritty logging detail that you would get from Config Manager? No. Can we get to that level of logging? Absolutely. But this is a great little place to be able to help understand what happened during the install attempt of a particular application. The other thing that's here is this column called resolved intent. So the purpose of that column really is, if you have an app that has been deployed in a couple of different scenarios, maybe by a couple of different groups, whatever, it could end up just to the extreme being that one group assigned the app as being required and another group assigned the app as being set to uninstall. And so you wonder, well, what's going on? Why am I getting strange behavior? Well, if you look here at resolved intent, this will coalesce all of the different ways in which the app has been installed or assigned and tell you, hey, based on all of these assignment styles, here's what's going to happen. Right? So very, very useful in those scenarios where things may not be as you might expect. Right? Okay. And then in terms of some tips and tricks, right? So you've seen me go through and do all of these demos and walk you through configuration and so on, right? And that's great, right? And learned a lot, hopefully, from that. The other thing, though, is to understand that, kind of the nuance, the inference of what I was showing, is that there are, you can really do things however you really want to do them in most scenarios. If you want to target the user, target the user. If you want to target the device, target the device. Now, there are implications of doing so in various scenarios. So think about autopilot, right, for Windows. And I know this is an Android discussion, but just think about autopilot as an example. If you target things to the user, then the user will have to wait while those items get installed before the device, Windows device, is available to them. Whereas if they're targeted to the device, then there are other scenarios such as white glove and autopilot that come into play and so on. And again, that's kind of a Windows example, so it's not perfect. But again, you can choose whatever you want. So in an Android situation, if you're using a device kind of as a kiosk and the user doesn't matter, then targeting the user doesn't need to happen, right? So it's completely up to your particular scenario. And the same thing is true when you decide how to deploy. Do you want to deploy as available? Do you want to deploy as required? Well, if you're in an Android enterprise environment, deploying as required is absolutely a great option, right? You can deploy as or assign as uninstall too, right? So lots and lots of different capabilities here, flexibilities to meet whatever business needs you might have. And so with that said, we're at the end of this session of Android. We will have a session next on kind of cleaning up some different things. And so we will wrap up the session and we will see you next time.